Hey, what is going on, guys? Happy Thursday to you. We just got an email this morning with an official announcement from Denon about their upcoming 8K receivers, AVRs. Some pretty cool stuff. Of course, we've seen a lot of the leaks, but I wanted to wait until we have an official announcement from Denon. Today, me and Brad from Home Theater Gamer is going to be hanging out. We're just going to go through this kind of live. We'll take you through each one of the AVRs, look at the specs, get some discussion in the chat. So if you've got questions, if you got comments, definitely drop those off over to the side. And before we dive in, just for a moment, so Brad and I are getting ready to go to CEDIA 2022. Super pumped about that. We've got about 8 different brands that we'll be doing content for, actually 9. We'll be making videos for that. So be on the lookout on the channel. I think Brad's going to be doing some kind of behind the scenes stuff on his channel. So make sure you follow him. Brad, are you excited about CEDIA, buddy?
I absolutely am. You know, I haven't traveled in a long time since the whole pandemic stuff kind of kicked off. And yeah, so like getting on a plane, like I'm just excited. I've been to Texas once, but it was just a layover. So I've never actually walked out of the airport. So I'm super excited. I'll be doing some behind the scenes stuff as much as I can. Because it will be helping you. And also CEDIA has some kind of strict guidelines on like what you can film on the show floor. So, but I think it'll be kind of cool to, you know, have your stuff on your channel, and then, you know, what's it actually like trying to do all this stuff. Kind of talk about that. And, you know, we could show off our editing bays in our hotel room, which is not going to be be much.
It'd be pretty minimal with just a laptop, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
man. So we're gonna have a blast with that. A couple of things before we dive into the AVR as more people are joining. We'll say hi to you folks in the chat in just a second. The other thing is we are getting super close to 100K on the channel. So if you are not registered, you need to get registered for the, where is it at? Right here. Make sure you head over to youthmanreviews.com/road to 100K. We've got about 30, I think there's 32 giveaways. There's $33,000 in prizes. And so definitely just a way to give back to the community. I've partnered with a bunch of brands that have generously donated those items. And so I'm super grateful for them. So make sure you head over there. And then one last thing I'll mention, tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be joining the folks at SVS for their happy hour. And so we're going to have a virtual happy hour. Of course, I'll be having my water or maybe some Celsius, non-alcoholic beverages. So, but that's all good. But I love hanging out with those guys, Nick and the Larry. So we're going to have some fun over there. We're going to be talking about home theater stuff. So let's say hi to some folks in the chat real quick. We got Chris and John, keeping up with the Joneses. Appreciate you guys being here. A lot of our regulars, Frank, Trish. What is happening? Trish is Brad's wife. Good to see you.
She's over in the next room supporting us. You know,
sweet deal, man. Slick, good to see you. Down with the wire, down to the wire. Sorry about that. And Roof Pizza, Sean, John, Rocco. Good to see you guys. All right, well, we're going to dive right into it. So let me pull up my screen. So as I mentioned, I received a press release this morning from Denon and their marketing agency. So basically there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 7 new AVRs. We're going to look at 5 of them today. There are 2 kind of Bluetooth AVRs, but the information is not, the link that they sent out earlier today is not correct. And I reached out to them. They said they're working on getting those fixed. So let's just go ahead and put up the first one here. So this is the AVR-S970H. So I really haven't had a chance to look at this. So we're going to dive through it together. So this looks like they're kind of entry level, one of their lower end. It's a 7.2 channel. All of these AVRs will be 8K compatible. So we've got the S970H. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So talking $899. So we're under that $1,000 mark. And Brad, feel free to jump in anytime. So we've got a 5.2.2 you know, setup that you can get here.
Or so 7.2 if you wanted, if you're not one that wants to do the Atmos.
Yeah, I like the Atmos.
Me too. Yeah. But what's great is you can start with a 7.2 or a 5.1 or whatever, and then eventually add those 2 height speakers.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but when you do that, then you would have to remove those back, like your surround backs.
Yeah. So in that case, you know, you might want to start with just a 5.1 or 5.2
Sure.
system and then add those 2 extras because you're going to lose the back.
Yeah. So it's not going to be a huge power supply in this. A lot of times when you
No.
get the sub $1,000 range, they're just not going to have a ton of power. But for a small system, the good thing is you only have 7 speakers versus like 9 or 11 to power. So they can kind of get away with a little bit less power. So we got 90 watts per channel. Now, keep in mind, this is only going to be 2 channels driven. So as you add more channels to that, if you have 5 speakers or 7 speakers, that 90 watts is quickly going to be quite a bit less. I think Denon has what their 70% kind of guarantee. So basically they're saying they guarantee when you have all the speakers, you know, driven, all 7, then it'll be 70% of that 90 watts.
Right.
So I'll let you do the math on that. So we got our normal DTS:X, Dolby Atmos, Neural X. We'll actually look at some other specs at the bottom. Like we mentioned, we've got 8K support. We've got 6 HDMI inputs on this one and 2 outputs, which is cool because back in the day, the lower end AVRs didn't have 2 outputs. But Brad, have you ever used 2 outputs in your setup? I only use 1 in mine.
I actually have. When I had a one of the Vizio, actually the last 2 Vizios, they have one like 4K HDR input, and then or they actually have 4, and then the 5th input is like a low latency, like one that's got very low latency. And so I would use the output, like the dual output. So I would switch between the 2 depending on the game and if I wanted HDR support, because the big deal with that was like it didn't support HDR. But it was nice having those 2 outputs because I didn't have to like go fiddle behind the AVR to do that. But you still have to kind of go in and switch it.
Yeah.
They have like I think they have an auto function, but I never really found it, kind of didn't really work. So maybe they've updated that, and hopefully they could, that's much more reliable now to use like the auto switching.
Sure. I want to take a look at this because here we're showing pre-outs. So if that is on this unit, I was thinking this one didn't have pre-outs other than your subwoofer outputs. So I want to look at the backs of these units just to make sure, but I was thinking they did not have that. So that was going to be one of the downfalls with this budget. Nope, we got them right there. So there's pre-outs, but I was looking at, let me go right here. Just want to make sure. Okay, so here we go. Let me zoom in. All right, look at this, guys. So that is an incorrect photo. So look right here. So only pre-outs on this unit is the subwoofer 1 and 2. So these are inputs. These are not outputs. But then when you scroll down here, they're actually showing that you've got pre-outs right here.
Oh, I bet you it's from a different.
Yeah, that's correct.
From a different model.
So be careful with that. So, and that's what I was thinking. I did not think this had that. So that's interesting. So I'll reach out to Denon and let them know about that. Because again, you look down right here, this is the only pre-outs right here. So, but we've got, I think, what did they say? 6 inputs. Now, what I don't know, are these all 2.1 inputs?
Yeah, I'm looking at the inputs, outputs.
Okay. Yeah.
And the
So
specs.
I got 8K. That's interesting because in the past we were only getting like 1, sometimes 2.
Which is really awful because as things progress, as you know, like the HDMI or the consoles, the next gen consoles, current gen consoles now, PS5, Xbox Series X, both are HDMI 2.1 compliant. And then, you know, maybe someone has one of the newer graphics cards that are also HDMI 2.1. So right there, that's 3. And, you know, what else is going to come out? New 4K players or 8K players that you're going to need to utilize that. So.
Yeah, so I'm definitely glad to see that even in some of these budget-friendly ones that they're offering the HDMI 2.1 inputs, and you're now getting multiple of them.
I don't want to like jump too far ahead, but just looking, because as a gamer, like a big thing for me is, does it support variable refresh rate? And Dolby Vision for gaming and all of that stuff? Yes, it does. Just looking at the specs, even this one, which is the kind of entry level, I guess you would say in a way.
Yeah.
under $1,000. It does support variable refresh rate, auto low latency mode, which is another big one. All the consoles support that.
So we're talking right here.
Yep. And then the only one that it doesn't support, which is the quick media switching, which I haven't seen a lot. That's basically gets rid of that. If you've ever, put in a movie or something, like the screen goes black for a few seconds,
it
gets
like
rid of that
handshake issue.
Right. The whole point of that is to minimize that. So if it needs to switch to 24 hertz or 24 frames per second content, it can just snap over to it real quick and then back. And I've run into handshake issues throughout the years, as I'm sure you have too, where it's like all of a sudden you have no signal. So
we do have 7 actual channels. I know sometimes when you get to the larger AVRs, we'll have to see if these do that. But let's say you got 11 channels of processing, but only 9 channels of amplification. So we'll want to check that on these other ones as well. So, but we do have 7 channels of amplification here, but no pre-out. So if you're thinking, number one, if your speakers are somewhat inefficient, so if you've got a sensitivity rating, I would say like under 90.
So me.
Then yeah. So I mean, that's where you really could use an external amplifier.
Right.
So if you have really inefficient speakers and you're going to be running all 7 speakers, not that this would struggle with that, but you would definitely benefit from having an amplifier. But just know with this AVR, you would not be able to add an external amplifier. So that's one thing to consider. Brad, any other thoughts on this one before we move on to the next one?
No, I mean, it's kind of honestly just kind of standard stuff. There's nothing other than the 8K support really, and all the other, fun HDMI 2.1 stuff. There's not much of a difference between this and honestly what I have now, which is like the older like X2800W. This does have Dirac. I wanted to mention that.
Are you sure? Because I don't think.
Oh no, actually, I see it right there. It says Odyssey Multi EQ XT32.
So that's one thing I wanted to mention. So we've been hearing rumors that Denon were going to add the capability to add Dirac Live to some or maybe all of their AVRs. So we do not get that option in this model. So again, if that's really important to you, then you're going to need to spend a little bit more money, and we'll see which one of the AVRs that have come out support the Dirac Live. Yeah,
see, this goes back to that picture you showed that I saw Dirac on there.
Really? Yeah, see?
And I thought, oh yeah.
Yeah. Was it one of these here?
I don't even think this one supports.
Look,
it's that one.
See, so that's so misleading.
Also, I don't think this specific model supports Oro 3D either. Because if you go back up to the picture in the very beginning, I was trying to find it down here.
So it does not say here. So it says, so we've got Dolby Atmos, but this one apparently does not have Oro 3D. So if that's a big deal to you, or if you've got an Oro 3D setup, again, this may not be the right model for you. All right, let me go ahead and switch over to the next one. Those of you in the chat, we got 200 of you. Let me know where you're joining us live from. I love seeing where you guys are from. Typically, we've got people from all over, literally the world, that hang out with us. And so we're grateful for you taking the time out of your day to check this out. So we're going to be on the 2800, which is right here. So this will be a next step up. So this, again, is 7.2 channels. Again, we've got 8K. Going to bump you up a little bit in price at about $1,200. Let's go ahead and check out some specs here. So that all looks the same. 95 watts a channel. So again, not really much difference in power amplification. And again, that's 2 channels driven. So let's go ahead and scroll down. So we've got our Dolby Atmos, DTSX, Neural X, and all of that. Same amount of HDMI input. So we've got 6 in, 2 outs. So not much change there. I bet this is going to have pre-outs though. I haven't seen anything mentioning Dirac Live.
This is Multi EQ XT. I'm looking at the specs at the very bottom. I'm going ahead of you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So here again, we don't have Dirac Live in the So there's 3 different series. There's an S series, which we looked at the S, what was it? Golly, 970, I think it was the model. Already closed the tab. Then we've got the X series. So we've got 3 of those. And then an A series. We'll look at that. That's a flagship. So let's take a look here. So we've got pretty much everything's the same there. We've got 6 inputs. So that's the same. What else are you seeing that's different on this one, Brad?
I mean, other than the multi-channel pre-out.
Okay, so we do have pre-outs on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're wanting to add
does it say yes .2? This can be kind of confusing if you're just now looking at these.
Yeah, sure. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna scroll up. We'll just take a look at the back of the unit.
Yeah, it has a zone 2. The other one didn't have a multi-zone.
Okay.
But I'm looking, I don't know.
Right here. This will probably be the easiest way. If their pictures are correct.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, so that's the one I'm looking at here.
So I am seeing, no, I'm not seeing any pre-outs. So we've
2 sub outs and then a zone 2 out,
okay.
and that's it.
So again, if you're going to want to add an external amplifier, this budget, I guess their lowest end in the X series, the 2800, is not going to have that. So we do have Dolby Atmos, multi XT, and the other one I think it just said multi EQ. So I don't know if it had the XT. And I know, like with mine, I've got XT32, so that's even a higher level of Odyssey, because Odyssey has some different levels there and different tiers. So looks like pretty much a lot of it's similar. I'm not seeing a ton of changes from this other than a little bit of extra power. And feel free to let us know in the chat if there's some things that you see. And I've got a link to all of these on the Denon's website if you want to kind of follow along on your end. And so if you got questions, Brad will probably have to filter the questions or kind of look through those, because pretty much I've got just my screen here looking at the website.
Oh, wait, there are people in the comments? What? No. Someone did ask what Dirac Live was. Okay. And basically, I mean, it's a similar thing to what Odyssey does. It's a room correction software. The difference with Dirac is most of the time, and Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, you have to use like a computer to interface with your receiver, and you need something like a UMIC 1, or as you call it, a UMIC.
So with Dirac Live, I'm thinking of ARC. ARC actually included a microphone. So
okay.
That is not correct. I don't think I've only reviewed one unit that I can remember that had Dirac Live, other than a 2-channel setup. I had an NAD M10 that had it. The cool thing is Dirac Live does have the option to utilize your cell phone. And so you can actually calibrate it that. What I don't know is their app a little bit limited in features versus the computer version of that.
Right.
So Dennis says Anthem Arc all the way. So we definitely got some ARC fans here.
I've only had experience with Dirac Live on the PC side of stuff. So I did a review a while ago. They reached out and sent me a UMIC and stuff like that. I really liked it from what I've done with Odyssey. Just the user interface and the user experience was much more, I don't know, it felt newer and more streamlined and not as archaic. And also being able to see the instant response of a speaker that you just measured in their software was super cool. I really like it. I'm not sure, and again, you could speak on this, because I know that Dirac also has multiple tiers, right?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I'm not as familiar because I've only reviewed one unit that had it.
Yeah.
What I do know is you have to pay extra for things like their base management.
Right.
And I think what exactly they call that.
Yeah, the basic like Dirac is included. You just have to have a microphone, I believe. I don't know if any of the Dirac processors or anything we're going to look at today comes with one.
Yeah. So
with
this one, again,
those are normally a little more, maybe a little more accurate than like the Odyssey microphones that come with your receiver. The little Eiffel Tower looking guys. Yeah.
Usually, a lot of guys do prefer Dirac over Odyssey. What I try to tell people is Odyssey is super simple. I mean, it's an easy walkthrough, very visual. do this, click here, put your mic here, boom, you're done. And you can leave it like that. You can download the app for like $20, give you a little bit more flexibility. And then there's also the new Odyssey that you can purchase. I think it's about $200 that you would connect with your computer. And then you can do a lot more tweaking with that if you really want to dive into it. So I think the new physical version, like on a PC, and I'm not sure if it'll work on a Mac or not, but that version is really trying to compete, I think, with things like Dirac. So Dirac is going to give it a lot more options. But again, this model here, the 2800, does not have the option to add Dirac. And we're going to see in the future models, the next couple that we're going to be looking at, it doesn't come with Dirac. It's just an option that you can purchase, and we still don't have a price on that. Do want to say hi. I saw him here just a second ago. Where'd you go? K-Pace guy, Kyle, man, good to see you. So good to hang out. Kyle's got a great channel. Search him up on YouTube, K-Pace guy. Super, super cool dude. All right. So any other thoughts on this unit here?
No,
2800. So again, this is a kind of the budget friendly. We're now crossing that threshold of $1,000. But wanted to give you some information on that one. So let me pop that off. We'll grab the next model, which is the 3800. Yep. So let's pull that up. So here's the 3800. Let me go back to the top. So 3800, we're going to bump up quite a bit in price. So we're looking at probably about another $500. You're going to be adding to the price tag of this one. So now we're at $1,700. We've got 8K, but we're starting to add some really cool features if you need them. Not everybody needs a 9-channel receiver, but this is a 9.4-channel AVR. And so that's pretty unique because I'm not sure I've seen an AVR that's had 4 independent subwoofer outputs until you get into like processors.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool that Denon is at least throwing that out there. Now, whether or not it's needed just really depends on your setup. If you don't have 4 subwoofers, then it's not that big of a deal. But for those of you that are running multiple subwoofers in your setup, 2, 3, 4, this might be of value to you. So let me know in the chat, how many subwoofers are you running in your setup? Do you have 1, 2, 3, 4? I saw Scott Newby made a post today. I think he's up to like 9 Captivator 4000 ULFs. Absolutely insane. Yeah. So Scott's on a whole nother level. There's no AVR that can support all of his, but he's got like several mini DSPs, I believe, in his setup.
That's crazy. I'm curious, are these discrete outputs? Like with that, I mean, can you adjust the distance on each one?
Sure.
Usually some receivers have a dual output, but they have a single, a single distance setting, which is basically like a Y splitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this like a 4-way splitter, or are there like individual trim controls for your subs? Like that's a question that I don't think we can answer right now, but something to think about.
Sure. So here we've got Oro 3D. So those of you that are interested in that, so you're going to need to jump up to 3800 to get that option. But take a look right here. So we've got enhanced performance with room correction options from Odyssey, which is already installed, or you can get Dirac Live, which is an optional upgrade available with future software updates.
Got you.
Now, I'm going to just throw this out there. Honestly, it kind of bugs me when companies do this. When they release a product and they say, hey, here's a great product, here's a lot of features, but we can't give you the features yet. Like when we ship this out to you, you're going to have to wait, and we don't really know how long that's going to take. Now, hopefully it'll be just pretty quick, a month, maybe 2 months. But what happens if it's like 5 months? I've seen, companies that have launched a product and they promise this great add-on, this great feature that we can, download via firmware. And it's like a year later, 2 years later, and they still haven't done it. So that's frustrating to consumers. And it's almost like, I don't want to say a bait and switch, but it's like, okay, let's just tease them. Let's tell them it's coming, but we're not going to give it to them just yet. I would much rather a company hold off until they've got everything that they want to sell in that unit, then ship it.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal opinion on that.
Yeah. So reading the wording here, though, they worded it very carefully. So if you look at it, it says optional upgrade, not update,
Correct.
available in future
That's
software update. So
yeah, there is a cost here. We don't know how much. I mean, I don't know if this is $200, $400. Now, going by, like, say for instance, I think it's on the Dirac website. And I probably should have pulled it up, but if you want to add, like, say for instance, Dirac bass control to let's just say the HTP1, that's a certain price.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember, it was like there's a couple of tiers. So if you don't want the bass control, it's one price. I'm gonna make it up. Let's say it's $300, but if you want the bass control, then it's $500. So Dirac Live I'm thinking it might be somewhere in there. It might be 200, 300. I'm just going to take a guess. What are your thoughts on the price? And this is hypothetical. We have no idea.
Right. I mean, if we go off of, go ahead.
I think 4. I don't know why. I'm thinking $400, because to ask somebody to spend like another $500 on top of, what is this, $1,800 receiver?
1,700.
Yeah. So
you're spending $1,700 on a receiver, right? And then depending on the Dirac Live version you choose, I think that now this is just my opinion. Again, this is not grounded in anything other than just going off of, I think they're insane if they want to charge $400 for like the baseline, because you can get the Odyssey multi EQX or whatever it's called for $200.
Yeah.
Granted, it's tied to this specific receiver. You can never use it with anything else.
Sure.
But I think the baseline would come in at 200. But if you want those extra features, you're going to like the bass control and all that stuff, you're going to be paying $400 or $500 for that. So I don't like the fact that it's like hidden behind, or like not hidden, but it's behind a paywall essentially. They're saying, well, you're spending $1,700, but give us more money. I actually just went through something similar with my calibrating my TV. It's like, okay, you need the actual software to calibrate it. That's $200 or $150.
Okay,
on top of what you already spent.
But let's just think of the flip side of this. This is not required for this unit.
Correct.
It has. I mean, at $1,700, you get everything you need. You get room correction software. If you want additional power, capability, room correction options, here's a premium upgrade. So in one respect, I do like the fact that they're making it optional, because if they didn't make it optional, they would be forcing consumers to pay for software they may not use.
Right.
They may just want to stick with Odyssey because it's simpler and it meets their needs. They don't need to dive in deep with Dirac Live. And so for them, I think it would be doing a disservice to them, because now they're paying for something that they don't necessarily need. And
I get that. If there's like a license fee, right?
Yeah. So one question I've got, drop it in the chat. I'm looking at the chat now. How much would you be willing to pay for Dirac Live? Is it important to you? Is that something that you want in a Denon AVR, or would you just, is this a $100 upgrade you'd be willing to pay, a $200? I'm just really curious your thoughts on that. So definitely drop it in the chat. Let me know how much you'd be willing to pay for Dirac Live on top of this $1,700 price tag. So I'm just curious.
You do have a really good point in that not everybody's going to utilize Dirac if it's included at this price point, right? Like some people are just going to buy it, and then $1 million.
Tim says $500.
Right.
Tony's a baller, man.
Right, million. Can you send $1 million over my way, please? That would be great.
Jose says about $300. Cool.
Now I do think that, from what I've heard anyway, Dirac does sound slightly better overall to me, mainly because they address the impulse response as well as the frequency response. Now I limit the amount.
Slick is cheap, man. He's not even doing $20. It's $19.99. That's awesome. Yeah. So I'm just going to answer some of the questions here and look through Odyssey versus Dirac. Again, that's preference. Dirac's going to give you a lot more flexibility than Odyssey, unless you're willing to spend the extra, I think $200 or $250 for the new Odyssey, that you can actually use your computer to. So let's see, Benjamin, I'd pay for it. I just want it to definitely come with a better measurement microphone. I get that. Typically Denon and Marantz come with just a really cheap plastic microphone.
Yeah.
I'd buy that for $1. Fred, you're a baller, bro. Dirac is not an upgrade. I would pay for right now. And oh, man, you guys are like blowing up the chat. This is awesome. Good thoughts. So Zombie says Dirac's not an upgrade he'd even pay for right now. Okay. And totally nothing wrong with it. And so what's good about this AVR is the fact that you don't have to. It's an upgrade. It's an option. And now one thing that we've heard, again, I haven't confirmed this, but my understanding is that it's very possible that, let's say you upgrade. This is something I want to ask Marantz directly now that this information is out there, and I can get some information to you guys out at a later date. But one question I have with the Dirac Live is, let's say I purchase this for the 3800. My understanding is that license is locked into this AVR. So if I buy another AVR, I don't think you can transfer that license. I would love to see, it's almost like, okay, it only allows you to activate it on one unit. So prime example, let's say I buy the 3800, I pay the X amount of dollars for Dirac Live. I would love to see, when I get ready to upgrade that, I can pretty much like unlink it from this AVR. Then when I get, let's say, the 5800 or whatever it's going to be, 3900 down the road, then I can actually reinstall Dirac Live because I paid for that license. So again, those are questions we just don't really have answers to right now, but those are some things to think about. And so hopefully I can get some clarification from the folks at Sound United. So Chris says, I'll say it once, Dirac is rather low priority for now. So maybe 100, 150 bucks. We got some, Dakota says, man, give it to me for free, bro.
Right.
I'm all for that. It's just not going to happen with Denon and Marantz. They're still tied to Odyssey pretty well. So, okay. So Tristan is saying Dirac Live with base control cost between $350 and $500. And I think that's what it was when I reviewed the HTP one. The reason why I don't know is because they sent that to me free. I got to hang on to it, make some video content on it, make a review. And then they gave me the license for that. So I didn't know what that actually cost.
Yeah.
But then I sent, I've got to send that unit back. So
yeah.
Anyway, so there's some great thoughts here, so I won't hit them all. But like I said, I was just curious what you'd be willing to pay for Dirac Live. So definitely when you're looking at these, you have to think through, okay, with the cost of this $16.99, is Dirac Live something that we want to add to that? And if you do, we don't know when it's going to be available, because
how much?
It says with future software update. And again, this is the key here. It's an upgrade, guys. It's not a freebie. You're not going to buy this and then, so definitely just kind of, just consider that when you're making your decision there. So we bump up a little bit of power. Again, not much. We went from 90 to 95. Now we're up to 105. And again, this is 2 channels driven probably. So the more speakers you add, and this one we can add, what was it? 9. So now you're adding more speakers. So you're going to need more power in that power supply. So just kind of keep those things in mind. But again, this unit does have Oro 3D. So if that's important to you.
I think this is also IMAX enhanced. The other 2 weren't, that we looked at previously.
Okay.
So that's something to mention.
All right. So here's what I was mentioning earlier. Some AVRs. So this one has 9 channels of amplification, but it shows that we can support up to 11 channels. And typically when Denon and Marantz do this on their receivers, and I think some other brands as well, is it'll process 11, but you're only getting 9 channels of amplification internally.
Correct.
So you'll need to add a separate 2-channel amplifier to power those additional 2 speakers. But we do have the processing here. We do have preamplifier mode. If you're not familiar with that, if you're connecting this AVR to an external amplifier. So in my case, I've got a Monolith 11X. It's an 11-channel amplifier. So I don't need any of the internal amplification from this Denon unit. So you can go into the setup, select preamplifier mode, and it disables all the internal amplification in it. So that should cause the unit to run cooler. But then supposedly the logic there is, because you don't have this internal amplification, then you're going to get a better, signal. You're getting better processing and so forth, because all the power supplies and everything, they can kind of devote all their attention to the video processing thing.
Right.
So whether or not like how much is that noticeable? Don't know. But if you're not using them, there's no reason to have them on. So that is an option there with this preamplifier mode. And then again, we've got optional direct live upgradability. So you will be paying for that for those of you just joining us in the chat. And this is the 3800H from Denon that we're looking at. So they don't tell us how much that fee is going to be. So we'll have to wait and see, but it looks like we're going to be getting this sometime in 2023. That is I wish they would have said, you know, first quarter or second quarter, but
yeah, I think they don't even know, maybe, you know, they're like, we're not sure either.
So again, that kind of, I mean, I love the company. I love, you know, what Denon is producing, and I love the advancements in technology, but I just get frustrated when brands say, pay for this. We're going to give you some of these other features, but we don't even know when we can offer it. So,
right.
I'm curious, you know, will you be able to pay for it up front, or, you know, because then that's going to really be bad. Hey, I'll give you my $500 for direct live, or however much they charge.
But take as long as you want getting it out, you know.
might not be so great there. I'm actually surprised that we still have 6 inputs. I was kind of thinking maybe we'd have a little bit more.
Now, is this? It says there all 6 inputs support 8K, so I feel like they're HDMI 2.1. Are all 6 inputs 8K on the other ones that we looked at?
Yes. From what I remember, yeah.
Okay. Wasn't sure.
Scroll up, yeah. Because I think even on the very first one, it said all imports support 8K 60 and 4K 120.
Gotcha.
So that's going to be good for those of you that like to game. Still got 2, I think it was 2 outputs over here. It's hard to see. Yeah, 2 monitor. Okay, so actually have 3. So you got 2 monitor and 1 zone output there. Almost looks like that one's closed up. You see that?
Oh yeah, like
that's
it's
interesting.
like they just said, you know what, we're going to use the back from the other one and just stamp it, and like
this is funny. So it's super interesting.
Yeah, when we get to the next one, you'll see why they did that.
Okay, cool. But what I'm saying is this right here says they are giving us 2 monitors and 1 zone output.
Oh, okay.
So I would think that all 3 of those would be open, but it sure looks like that one's closed. So
2 monitor and 1 zone. Interesting.
So we do have eARC, so that's good for those of you that have, say, a TV that has built-in things like all your smart features for Hulu and Netflix. You want to be able to take that audio and bring it back into the AVR. eARC is a really great way to do that. It's kind of like having audio like as a 2-way street. Instead of just going out, it's coming in, the audio portion of that.
Right.
Let's see. Any other things on here that you see? So again, we've got Auro 3D support for that. We got some 3D reality audio. Not sure if that was on the other one or not.
Is that 3D or 360?
I'm sorry.
360 reality. Yeah. So this might be their kind of up mixing 2-channel. Like if you have 2 speakers, it kind of creates this fake, you know, surround sound 360-degree field. I'm not sure.
So here's what I was mentioning earlier. I believe the previous ones had Odyssey XT. So this is Odyssey XT32. So it's a higher level of Odyssey.
You get more, I'm going to butcher this. I know you get like more filters and better, like especially for the subwoofer. Yeah, for the subwoofers. But if you use something like a mini DSP already, you probably want to disable the subwoofer correction through Odyssey.
Yep. So we got direct live upgradability, which is good there. Anything else you guys see? Everything else looks pretty much the same.
Yeah, someone asked in the comments, Fred 215, do they come with a better microphone? We don't know that yet, unfortunately. Maybe I'm not sure.
Don't anticipate it, but that's just me. So again, we got 9 channels of amplification, but 11 channels of processing. So this will support 11 speakers. You're just going to need a separate amplifier to power those last 2 speakers. And again, we've got 105 watts, but this is the key right here, guys. 2 channels driven. And I like that 2-channel drive. There you go.
Channel drive.
Channels driven. So that means that for every speaker you add above 2, this number is going to begin to get lower. And so if you got efficient speakers, that's great. But the good thing is this does have pre-outs on the back, as you can see right here. Let me scroll up to the top. We've got a bigger like zoom. There we go. So you can see all of these are pre-outs right here for all of your channels. So you got your front heights and rear heights and surrounds, center channel, your mains, everything. So, and then we've got 4 subwoofer outputs. So pretty interesting stuff. So that is the 3800. Any thoughts on that one?
No, not really. Some people are, I guess, I don't know. I want to touch on this real quick if you're okay with
go
it.
ahead.
Talking about 8K, because people are talking about 8K in the comments. I actually made a video maybe a year or so ago called You Don't Need 8K. I think 8K outside of very particular use cases is completely just overkill, right? Like considering right now with 4K releases, we have a lot of 4K movies that are actually mastered at 2K, right? So 8K doesn't really, there's not a huge benefit unless you have a massive screen. Like I think even with your setup, because don't you have like 150-inch screen?
150-inch diagonal, correct.
Right. So even with your setup, you may see a slight difference, but I don't think it would be anything insane. Like it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh. But I think where some things do come into play, or like video games, where if you render at a higher resolution internally, even at 8K, and then you output at 4K, I mean, you need a lot of processing power, a lot of graphics processing power, something that the consoles currently can't even output. You know, I don't know if you remember, they made a big stink when these new consoles came out with 8K, and we can't get 4K 60 on most titles because it's just the console's power just isn't there. So I think that 8K outside of those use cases for really, really big projection are just kind of, it's a big marketing thing right now.
100%.
You know, they're pushing for it.
Yeah, 8K is to me way far. And I mean, I'm thinking before it becomes even remotely mainstream and we've got enough content to support it, I'm thinking literally like 5-6 years down the road. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I could be wrong, but to me, 8K is a nice feature, but it's definitely, when I'm looking at an AVR, that is not like my checkoff list. It's just like a bonus. But I do like the fact that these are having 6 HDMI 2.1 inputs, supposedly, at least from the specs and what we're seeing on the website. So,
and I think 4K 120 is the bigger deal. Like as especially if we're talking about gaming or even movies, like you know, some movies coming out on 60 frames per second, and
a few of them.
You know, a few of
Gemini
them.
Man, I think.
You know, and the jury's still out on like, you know, that's it. Basically comes down to like, what do you prefer? For me, I'm not a huge fan, but it can work for certain things. For other things, it just not a good thing. But as we push into that, 120 really goes into most, like it goes into 24 evenly. It goes into, you know, 60 evenly, so you can, and 30, so you could get nice. And I lost my train of thought there. Wow, don't you love that?
It's all good. I'm
multitasking. That's what I'm talking about.
Too.
You can get even pull down, so like, you know, 24 goes into 120 5 times, and you know, you get it. So you get really smooth motion without any type of like judder introduced by that. By the TV or display, that's a different story. But anyway, that's
those of you that those of you that just joined in the chat, we got over 300 in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. So we're looking at Denon's new AVRs that they just sent out the official announcements. We're checking those out on the website. So far, we've looked at the S970H, which is an entry level. We've looked at the 2800H, which is their entry level in the X series. And then we just looked at the 3800H. And so now let's look at the next one, which is the 4800H. Let me scroll back up first. So we see right here. Man, I tell you what, for somebody that's not good at multitasking, this stuff really puts me to the test.
You're killing it, Michael. You're killing it.
You got guys in the chat. I've got 8 different tabs open. We've got StreamYard running and trying
I'm glad
to
you're
hold.
doing it and not me. I'm just sitting here enjoying the show.
This is fun, man. I enjoy the being able to share with you guys, hopefully some updated information for you. And again, we've seen a lot of these rumors, but now I typically, just me personally, I don't like to talk a lot about what ifs. I'd rather just wait till I have the actual information from the companies and then be able to share that. So here we're stepping up quite a bit. So now we're up to $2,500. So let's see what we get with this. Now this is interesting. So we went up, but it looks like we went down in processing. That's interesting. So we're spending more money, and instead of 11 channel, now again, the other one was 11 channels of processing, but only 9 channels of power. So I'm curious to see if down in the specs, this one actually says 11 or if it's, let's go ahead and just take a look at the back.
So just here, flipping back and forth.
So here we have that other one. Go ahead.
No, I was saying flipping back and forth on my iPad here between the 4800H and the 3800H. They're both listed as 9.4 channel receivers.
Oh,
so
okay,
even the
okay.
3800H just has that 11 channels of processing.
I got you. Okay. I was thinking it said over here 11.4.
No,
You're
yeah.
right.
As we get up to the bigger guy, well, that'll change. But yeah.
So that's where to me, it's interesting because you'll see on an AVR, it says like 11.2. And then we've got this other nomenclature like 7.2.4. And it does get confusing sometimes. But the 9.4 is talking about your typically like your power amplification. And so how many amplifiers are in there, but it'll process 11.2, or in this case, 11.4 probably when we get down here. So we'll take a look at that. So still have probably Oro 3D on this, I'm assuming. Yep, Oro 3D right here.
IMAX Enhanced.
Yep, IMAX Enhanced. Yep. Now, I don't know. I never got excited by IMAX Enhanced. I think it's one of those, not platforms, but it's one of those formats that we were promised a whole lot of stuff, and like there was some hype, but it just didn't. Dolby Atmos literally has just really taken the marketplace. And I'm not saying it's necessarily better than DTS:X or better than IMAX Enhanced, but they sure did a better job at getting the word out and putting Dolby Atmos encoded on discs. So
yeah, I think IMAX Enhanced is just, I'll be honest, it seems like a way to fill people's big screens instead of having black bars. That's kind of what I viewed it as initially. I haven't seen, I haven't seen any uptick in resolution or anything like that really would make it super worth it. It's just another way to enjoy content.
So one thing, Brad, before I get sidetracked, if you see any super chats come in, let me know, because I know you're not logged into the account, so you can't star those. But I just
we
saw
did get one. We have one so far.
Just want to make sure.
Yep, there you go.
So I just happened to flip back over and look at the chat. So chat, just kind of keep in mind, I'm mostly looking at the browser tab on the product page. And so when I'm on that, I can't see the chat to see what you guys are saying. So Brad's going to kind of help me with that. So Mark Gallant says X4800 has better DACs, better processor, 100-watt larger power capacity or power supply, and it's made in Japan. So super cool. Appreciate the information there, and definitely appreciate the super chat. So it's good to know those additional details as we're going through the specs. We may not necessarily see those. So definitely in the chat, if you see some things that we don't see or have some information that we don't have, definitely drop them our way. Tony says all of his chats are super chats. Show me the money, baby. Show me the money. I'm just kidding. So I'm with Brian here. IMAX needs a 2.35:1 screen. So on my screen, IMAX Enhanced doesn't do anything. I'm going to be masking off, that overspill. So,
which is kind of funny when you think about it, because in actual IMAX theaters, I think the aspect ratio is something like 1.9:1 for the IMAX scenes. So it's not about the width. Someone mentioned in the comments, typically more about the taller aspect ratios.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna bring this up. We mentioned Brad and I are going to be at CEDIA together. Ike's going to be hanging out with us as well, which is Easy HT Tech. He says,
that's
I know
who it is.
Yeah. So Ike, He says, I love my Dolby Atmos. I do. I really, really do, man. I am super pleased with my experience. I've been over to Jonathan. He's in the chat. I've heard his home theater Dolby Atmos setup. It's phenomenal. Tony Salk, he's got here. We'll just put up his smiley face. Tony has got an incredible Dolby Atmos system. Dolby Atmos can be phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And it all depends on things like calibration, proper setup, speaker placement, all of that. So people that poo-poo on Dolby Atmos, shame on you, man. It's awesome. When done right.
I actually had this discussion with Stephen Smith, Home Theater Gurus, about how Dolby Atmos speaker setup is either it can be the deal breaker for a lot of people. If it's not set up properly, and you're not getting the correct spacing of your speakers, then I could totally see why someone would be underwhelmed by Dolby Atmos. I was initially, until I got everything, you know, where it should be.
Yeah, 100%. You can have, and that's why I've always told people, having, let's just say, for instance, a higher speaker count that's improperly set up would be a lower experience than having less speakers that are set up properly. So you definitely want to do your homework on that, calibrate it, set up. Love you too, brother. Appreciate that, man. So, all right. So let's keep looking. Let me flip back over to 4,800. I'll jump back over to the 3,800. So again, we've got, for those of you just joining the chat, some of these new AVRs, not all of them, some of the higher end ones do offer the ability to upgrade to Direct Live. So this is optional. There is a future update on the previous model. It does say, it gives us the implication that there is going to be, it's an upgrade, which means you're going to pay for it. So with them not mentioning it here, I don't get the impression that it's going to be included in it, like free. But again, we just don't know that yet. But I'm thinking we're still going to have to pay for it even on this model.
Yeah.
So same stuff here. I don't see anything different. Let's look at sound enhancements. So we got same Odyssey XT32, Direct Live upgrade ability. Okay. So to me, that still says money.
Yeah, right.
All right. So we do have an extra HDMI input on this one. So we've got 7 versus 6 in the previous models. Still, I love this. We've got HDMI 2.1, as we saw earlier. It should be on all of those inputs, I believe. And
this one also has that extra, as I was saying, that extra output in the HDMI section for the zone out. Remember, it was grayed out or whited out before.
Yeah, correct. Let's look here. Take a look. Yep. So we do have 3 outputs here. What else we got? A little bit more power down here. So we're up to 125 watts of power, 9 channels of internal amplification. It doesn't really say, does it say anywhere that it's got 11?
Yeah, it has 11 pre-outs.
Okay. So it does say that. Okay, cool.
You have 11.4.
So yeah, so this is going to be similar to the 3800. So we've got 9 physical channels that can be amplified with this unit, but it'll process 11 speakers. So you just need to add a 2-channel amplifier, or like in my case, if you've got an 11-channel amplifier, you just wouldn't use any of this model's internal amplification to power your system. So cool, man. Let me know in the chat, what are your thoughts on the 4800? Is there anything you're excited about? Do you think it's priced about right? Is that ridiculous to pay $2,500 for an AVR? That's one of the trends that I've been seeing over the past probably 2-3 years, is that AVR prices, they just keep going up, man. I mean, like $2,500, that's a lot for an AVR, but we're also adding a lot more things that we didn't have back then.
Yeah,
8K support, 2.1 support.
This one also looks to have component input. Like it has some separate analog inputs over like the 3800 and exactly. Media player, like who?
Why did we add that back here?
And they even have composite, like for like who? I don't know if you're going to spend this much on a receiver.
I get you,
maybe some older, like somebody just loves their old DVD or Oppo DVD player or Oppo or however you say it.
Yeah. This is one thing I like over here. So we've got 3 trigger outs. Typically on a lot of AVRs, you have 2 trigger outs. So triggers allow you to connect this AVR to, let's say, an amplifier. And so you leave that amplifier on at all times. And you connect with, usually it's like a 3.5 millimeter mono cable that goes from the trigger out, like say for instance, this right here, it says 1. So you'd connect that to your amplifier. So when this unit kicks on, when you turn on the Denon, it just sends a small little signal to the amplifier, and it says, hey, I need you to wake up. And so it's kind of like in a standby mode. So it turns that amplifier on, and then when you're done, once you turn off the Denon, then that turns off the amplifier. So I love that feature because most amplifiers have a physical toggle switch. So you're not going to be able to use a remote to turn them on. So this is the way that you add some of that kind of remote functionality to be able to turn on and off your amplifiers.
Right.
So I like the fact it's got 3.
That's cool. Yeah.
So that's something I don't think we had in the other one. I didn't notice that in the other ones. So let me pop back over to the chat. Any comments, questions regarding the Denon AVR-X4800H 9.4 channel 8K receiver? He's making fun of you, man. Oppo. Yeah. I don't know the correct way either. All right. So Brian says
Oppo, but everybody.
I think it's Oppo, but I don't know.
I don't think it matters that much, but people like to like to point it out.
They're kind of gone.
How did you say you, Mike, for the longest time?
I used to say I did. I was like Umic one. People made fun of me. You got the same thing with it's technically, I believe it's Dirac. A lot of people say Dirac.
Yeah, when I chatted with the Dirac rep, Denon.
Mm-hmm.
I think with that, it's just people are going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Roof Pizza says he leaves his amps on 24/7. So
I did know a guy once that had some Paradigm speakers, as he called them.
Paradigm.
Yeah,
love it, man. That's awesome. Dan, welcome to the chat, man. You may, if you're just jumping in, there's a lot to catch up, so you may have to hit the replay on this one, but we still got quite a bit to cover. So here's a good question. Snoot says, what exactly is the $800 difference from the 3800 to 4800 getting someone?
Component inputs. That's what $800 get you.
And an extra trigger out, right?
I think you get a little bit more power, right?
Not much.
Not much, just a little bit. You go up one more input.
Yeah.
You get all the trigger inputs, which the 3800 has 1, I believe. This has the 3 multi-zone outs, or the 3 HDMI outputs, composite input. I don't even know why.
Yeah. Sometimes what happens too is we don't see, and somebody mentioned this earlier in the chat, the things that we don't see is like, okay, where's this unit manufactured? Sometimes that matters. You know, a lot of people value a model being manufactured in, say, Japan versus in China or in, or Taiwan or wherever. So sometimes that's the difference. They manufacture these in different plants. So the higher ones typically get manufactured in those plants that we would, I guess, value more, maybe have better quality control, so to speak.
Right.
So sometimes it's that. Sometimes they put better components in them, better DACs, better, even there's different amplifiers like HDAM, I think it is. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know the difference between those, but sometimes they use different types of amplification. So some of those we won't necessarily maybe see on this website. So
someone else mentioned that this has 4 independent sub outs. The 3800 does as well.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, what we don't know is, are they actual individual outs, or are they just kind of 4 or 2 split? Yeah. 2 ways, something like that. So
sure.
That can make a difference, especially if you are one who forgoes Odyssey or Dirac and want to dial things in manually. That's adjusting your sub distance can be a way to get your subs kind of playing nicely together in phase with one another without using the controls. Anyway.
All right. So for those of you that got the big bucks, okay, so we've looked at AVRs from $899, I believe, was the entry level one.
$899. Yeah, that was the 970H.
Yeah, and then we've worked our way up. We had one that was a little bit above $1,000, a little bit above. Keep going. Now we're up to 2,500. So now Denon has their flagship AVR. We're going to take a look at that one. So let's pull that up here on the screen.
Whew.
So here is the big boy, the one everyone is waiting for, I'm sure. Not this guy. Holy cow. Look at this. Here we go. $6,500, Brad. Get out your wallet.
I don't have
Holy
6,500
cow.
laying around.
Wow. See, who would have thought that we would get to a point in life, in the home theater space, that we would spend $6,500 on, I mean, like the flagship 15. So here's where it comes down to. So this one has 15 channels of processing. I'm curious to see if it's got 15 channels of amplification. I'm assuming it does because of this right here, but we'll find out. So let's take a look at this one together. So $6,500. I mean, you're definitely getting to the point to where some people may wonder, why would I go with this versus separates? Why wouldn't I go with just a dedicated processor? You know, I can buy a processor for $3,000, $4,000. Why? Okay, so here's why. 15 channels. This is what's gonna prevent you right there. That is definitely a lot more typically in the processor stage. Let's go ahead and look at the back before we jump out of here.
This one definitely looks more premium.
Look
At
fancy.
that. Look at that. Look at those XLR outs.
Ooh,
The
so over
balance
here,
XLR pre-outs.
yeah. So we've got
Yeah.
XLR pre-outs for your subs. So that would be
Actually, that's audio inputs. So you got two.
Oh, wait. So
yeah, if you go to your right,
that would be on the
on the opposite side.
Okay. So let's stay over here. So this would be what uses XLR outputs. Is that DACs, CD players? I don't even know. I've never had an XLR input.
That's a good question. I don't have anything XLR in my in my home theater system, but yeah, someone in chat maybe could chime in.
Yeah, chat. Let me know. Do you have anything, or what would you use an XLR input? Like, what device has XLR outputs that you would connect to this? So I'm assuming maybe CD player, just because right above it we've got CD.
Yeah,
and it's kind of looped in this little section here. So I'm thinking maybe your higher end CD players, maybe they have balanced XLR outputs on them. So all right, so let's see. So we've got 7 HDMI inputs. So that's same 3 HDMI outputs, but here's some new stuff here. So we've got balanced outputs for subwoofers. So instead of connecting over here, where are they on this one? Oh, it's right above it. So right here, instead of using the RCA unbalanced, we now have balanced XLR output. So if your subwoofer has XLR inputs, you can definitely take advantage of that. And it looks like we've got some upgraded binding posts down here. It's not going to make it sound any better, but it sure looks cool.
Yeah.
Problem is I don't ever look at the back of mine. So
who does?
Just looks good on the website.
Once it's in, like, you're not going to be back there going, this is pretty.
We lost the trigger output there.
Oh no.
So gain some, you lose some, right? All right, let's keep scrolling down here. So for $6,500, let's see what we get. So we get 15 channels of amplification. So that's huge. In an AVR, you're getting 15 channels of amplification. So I'm curious what, I'm guessing it's going to be like 150 watts. Problem is again, the more speakers you connect to an AVR, the less it's going to power. So this will handle up to a 9.4.6. And so if you're not familiar with what those numbers mean, 9 speakers would be your bed layer. So we're talking 3, I'll see if I can kind of do it this way. So 3 speakers up front, your left, your center, your right. And then maybe you've got 2 front wide speakers. So that would be in between your front sound stage and your listening position. So you got 2 front wides there. Then you've got like 2 side surrounds, 2 back surrounds. So you've got 9 speakers on the bed layer. So in the chat, SOWK, SOWK, he has 9. I believe, Tony, you've got 9 bed layer speakers in yours. So that just, again, it just adds a lot more immersiveness, and it allows, especially when you got longer rooms like he does, it allows that sound to have just seamless transition from one speaker to the next. 4, the 0.4 would be your subwoofers. So this one has 4, we're thinking independent level adjustments, but there possibly even could be 4 independent kind of correction as far as like phase. So that would be super cool. And actually it makes sense, especially now that they're introducing Direct Live.
Yeah.
Because Direct Live can actually do that. And then the 0.6 would be 6 Atmos speakers, height speakers. So definitely that's a big old room and a lot of speakers.
70 pounds.
It's a beast right here.
That's a beast.
Yeah.
Back hurts.
All right, so we got 150 watts per channel. And again, this is probably going to be set 150 watts, 2 channels driven. So the more you add, more speakers you add, if you add all 15, that's going to drain that power supply pretty substantially. But again, Denon typically promotes, and I think Marantz does too, a 70% guarantee of that. So if you hook up all 15 speakers, my understanding is they're going to guarantee 70% of that 150 watts. So you can do the math on that. So I'm looking here. So what else do we have down here? So this all looks pretty much the same. IMAX Enhanced, Dolby Atmos, Oro 3D, of course, 3D, 360 reality. I keep saying 3D, 360 reality audio. Oh, so check this out. So this is a little different. So now we've got a monoblock amp construction. So I had an amplifier way back in the day. It was a Sherborne amplifier. I think it was a 7-channel amplifier. And a guy, again, I'm not an engineer. I don't get into all the super details of that. But somebody told me, and looking in under the hood, they were like, Michael, you have 7 it's like having 7 monoblock amplifiers in one chassis. And so the way it's configured, the way it's wired, the way it's constructed. So that's kind of the impression I'm getting here. Monoblock power amp construction. So that's chat. Let me know what is your understanding of that. It's not really a lot of information. So maybe we've got a different type of amplifier in this thing to be able to handle 15 channels. So let me know your thoughts there. Okay, so this is different. What is this? AL32 processing multi-channel.
That was in the other ones as well.
Okay, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got same thing, XT32. We should have the ability to upgrade to direct live. And again, if you're just joining the chat, this is probably going to be some type of upgrade as far as price. It's not going to be available till 2023 sometime. We don't know when, and we don't know how much. And then come down here to inputs. We've got 7 inputs. It's interesting. I've seen on all these, they're no longer adding an HDMI input to the front. I actually like that because that's how I connect my RAW when I'm taking measurements.
Yep. Same here. My laptop goes right. So now you have to have maybe like what I have my mini DSP behind my entertainment stand, and I have the USB cord just kind of connected to it, but I kind of roll it up and just put it behind.
Yep.
So when I'm ready to go, you know, make some tweaks or whatever, I'll do that, but I'll bust out the HDMI cable and just plug it right into the front to the, I have it assigned to the aux1, whatever. And it works perfectly. But now it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to have, I'm not saying I'm getting this because I think it's overkill for my small room, but
man, that'd be awesome in a bedroom. You got to admit, dude. Come on,
9.6. God, you imagine that?
That's got to be a big room. And so that's the thing. I mean, if you've got something that's handling 15 channels, you probably have a pretty massive size room. You know, my room is only 13 foot by 19. And I can't imagine having, like, even with 2 rows of seating, I don't have enough depth in my room to be able to put 6 Atmos speakers. So 4 is all I really can. And I have no place to put front wides.
Yeah.
So
we got a super chat.
Okay, cool. Let me pop
up.
Back over here. Spillage Village, put you up here, brother. Appreciate the super chat. At close to $7,000, would it be more cost effective to go with separates versus the 15-channel Denon? Okay, so that's a great question, and initially I thought that too, and it still may be, but a lot of the 15-channel processors are the really high-end ones, like Trenov. So now you're talking, you know, a ton of money.
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking, you know, $15,000 or something like that, 32,000 for the 32. So that's a lot of money. Let's see who else has a 15-channel processor. Emotiva, I think their RMC1, I think, is a 15-channel, but that was $6,000. So, so definitely, you know, there are some new processors that are kind of budget friendly. I think Iota, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think that is a new brand kind of on the market that has some more budget conscious. I think there might be one other brand that I'm not familiar. Let me know in the chat. I see some of you guys popping in. So Brandon says, "Good to see you, buddy." Brandon says HTP1 Anthem AVM 70. That does 15 channels. Interesting. I didn't know that. I tried to get them to send me one, but I never heard from them. I mean, I did hear from them, but so AVM 70 Datasat Monoprice. Yeah, so definitely there's some options out there, and you got to figure out what works for you. JBL Synthesis does as well. I'm not okay. That was the other one. Appreciate that. Anoop says Tone Winner AT300. So those are going to be some more affordable. I don't know what they run, but you can look at that. But again, just kind of compare them to see what is going to meet my needs. Looks like the AVM 90 from Anthem supports 15 channel. Okay. So there was a correction here. Winston says AVM 90 does 15 channels, but not the 70. Okay. Yeah. That's what I was like. I didn't think it was, I thought it was like 11 channel AV or a processor. JBL Synthesis does. Would be as cost effective to buy this in separate amps. Just want the HDMI 2.1, 7.4.6 for 3 gig or less. Already have the amps. Yeah, I mean, we all have our wish list, right, Ton? I get it, brother. I get it. Anthem AVM 90. Cool. Youthman problem with the Emotive is that it only has XLR, so you would need to upgrade your amps if they don't already have. So that's a good point there, because you definitely don't, ideally, you don't want to convert XLR down to RCA just to make your amps work. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of balanced XLRs. So that is something to consider as well when you're looking at. But typically when you move up to processors, a lot of them, you know, I mean, that's part of the idea is like, okay, now I can finally get into balanced XLR outputs and utilize that, and the features that it brings.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. It says DTS X Pro is on the Denon, but not the others that were mentioned.
Correct.
Okay, so let me look. So this one has DTS X Pro?
Yes.
Okay. So we missed that when we were covering. Appreciate letting us know. There we go. Right there. Cool. So if you're interested in DTS X Pro, again, I don't know how much content is out there right now for Pro. But it makes sense because I forget how many channels it supports, but it's a lot of channels. So
yeah. Just looking at the graphic here, looking up DTS-X Pro, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for most people, I don't know, it's a lot of channels that majority of people wouldn't have in their home. Yeah. But if you're going with like a 15, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, IMZ, appreciate the information on the pricing of the AVM 90, just in comparison. So AVM 90 is a processor at 7,500, and then you've got to buy external amplification for 15 channels. So that can get pretty pricey. So you're probably going to be well above 10 grand for that setup, I would imagine. So DTS Pro is big. Cool, man. All right. So Fred says the AVM 70 is 15.2, not 4. Okay. So you lose 2. And the reality is a real inexpensive fix for that is just get a 2x4 HD from Mini DSP. Now you got 4 outputs, independent. You can do all the processing you want with it. You just have to kind of do the direct live processing and then come over and use the Mini DSP and do the processing there. Says, all right, it's got some disappointment. Everyday J says, sad they skipped the 6 models. That's a big void they made, but the 3 models had Oro. Yeah. So again, I don't know. I'm not an Oro hater. I promise you. I just personally haven't seen the huge value that it brings to the table, but that's just me. And I've heard a bunch of different home theater systems. Some of them had Oro setups, and I'm listening. I'm going, okay. I mean, I never once went in there and went, oh my gosh, this is what I'm missing in immersive audio. I really haven't. I think, again, we talked about this earlier in the show. It comes down to calibration, it comes down to setup, and it comes down to implementation. If you do it right, you can get an incredible experience, even with Dolby Atmos. So I wouldn't say no to XLRs, but they aren't a must. Cool. Yeah, so this is a great thought here. General Cinema says the question is, can it play movies at reference? So that's pretty loud in a large room with 15 channels with internal amplification, and it not start to introduce some levels of distortion. So the good thing, again, you can always try it, and if it's not driving your speakers to the levels that you'd like it and the cleanness and the clarity that you like it, you can always add external amplification. Right. Even if you just add a 3-channel amp or a 5-channel amp to relieve some of that power from that power supply, let it drive those the main speakers, and then let the AVR internal amplification power like your surrounds and everything. So let's see what else we got here. All right, Brandon's dropping some knowledge over here. What you saying here, brother? He says, though, I think those will be coming out next year. What is he referring to? Do you see?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah. Ryan, good to see you, buddy. He says, I wish Denon and Marantz would make their outputs routable. Okay, releasing some in Q4 and some in Q2. So again, I'm not sure. Brandon, let me know in the chat, what were you referring to above that? I didn't get a chance. Love you too, Michael. Appreciate the love, man. So we're getting close to 100,000 subscribers, guys. Super appreciative for all you guys. No, I'm not the way. There's only one the way, and I'm not him. Let's see, tone winner. Cool. All right, so we're going to jump back over here to the next one. AVM 70 is $37.99. Okay. Super cool. Oh, okay. So he was referring to the 6800.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Cool.
So they haven't announced. Okay. Yep.
Nice. Okay. So definitely. So again, we got some new models coming out. All right, guys. So we have looked at the S970 entry level. We had an AVR-X2800H. We've looked at the 3800H. We looked at the 4800H, and we looked at the flagship AVR-A1H. So these are the new Denon AVRs. Lots of different thoughts. I know in the community, some are going, man, I can't believe we got to pay for direct live. Some are saying, I love the fact that we have that option, because maybe I can't afford it now, but it's nice to be able to add that later on. Because I get people in my comments all the time, and they'll ask the question like, hey, with my AVR, can I add direct live? And really, I think the only way you can do that is some of the mini DSP products do have direct live built in,
right?
But you'd have to use something like that. You can't just add. And a good question people have asked, like, hey, will my Denon model that I have now, will they be able to add direct live to it? And the answer is going to be probably no.
Probably, yeah. Probably
you're gonna have to have one of these new ones in order to take advantage of that. So here again, good question, Michael. What is the price that we're expecting of direct to be? We don't know. I haven't seen anything online. I haven't heard from Denon and Marantz. We just got this email a little bit earlier. So I wanted to jump on here and just provide some updated information. I've got all the links to each one of these in the description. You can probably even just go to their website and you'll be able to find them pretty easily. But anyway, guys, let us know what your thoughts are on these new models. Now, there are 2 other ones. I'm going to hit refresh just to see. Okay. So they were supposed to be working on them. They sent out the press release. There's a model called AVR-X570BT. So I'm assuming Bluetooth. And then there's a 580BT. But like I said, that's not working on their website, at least the links that they provided us. So I think those are more budget friendly as well. So Brad, what are your overall thoughts here, man, before we wrap it up?
I mean, I'm not one that is going to run out and get that $6,500 A1H. I wouldn't mind having it, but it's overkill for my small room and my setup. And I really, someone mentioned in the comments earlier, and I don't know where I could, like, it's way up there. I don't think I could find it, but they were basically talking about, look, if you have an older model and you don't game, then these upgrades, there's not a whole lot here other than like direct live functionality that is going to appeal to you depending on the cost. Because a lot of these are 4K, 4K 120 for the next gen consoles, even though, as we discussed earlier in the show, they can't even really hit that most of the time for most games anyway. Very, very hit or miss. But yeah, I think that, you know, if you've been looking to upgrade, this is something that I always do. If you don't need like the Dirac Live or Oro 3D is not really on your radar, and you don't need like 15.4 channels or anything like that, whenever new models come out, typically you can find older models at a more substantial discount.
100%.
And I think for someone like me, I really want those gaming features, right? Like right now I have both my Series X and PS5 hooked up directly to the TV, and I'm using ARC for audio. And with ARC, there's always a slight delay, even when it's perfect. And I'd rather just run everything through the AVR. So I'm really interested in maybe the 2800. That's one that I'm looking at. But I want that upgradability. Like I want at least the ability to have, like, even if it's 7 channels of amplification, I wouldn't mind having the ability to go, okay, I want 4 Atmos speakers. So if I have to add external amplification for those, perfect. But yeah, I think, you know, I mean, we've seen the prices skyrocket across the board over the past couple years in terms of, you know, stuff. So even that $1,200 is a big ask, I think, for a lot of people.
I don't know. I heard something else.
Oh, a big ask. There's a K on the end of that, Michael.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm like a middle school dude.
If people don't, if only people knew how dirty Michael's mind was. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's a pretty big deal for most people. $1,200 isn't cheap. Yeah, for sure. So. And the budget friendly options, if you're just getting into it, sure. Like those are great starting points, you know, jump into this, but yeah. And then you have the potential of spending more money on Dirac if you want that. So it can get expensive, but I think they have some pretty good features. I was hoping to see maybe some more, I noticed all of them in the specs, they all list that they're compatible with the 2016 remote app on like iPhone and iOS. I'd really like to see them update that. I mean, that app hasn't changed literally since like 2016, 2017. Same interface, same everything. Just a little updated GUI, you know, just.
I think a lot of us were hoping that Odyssey itself would change too. And I've heard hints that it is, like in some of the rumor stuff, they've said that they have revamped the user interface. So we may see that. I'm not sure. But that hasn't been confirmed, at least from what I've seen on the website here. So Marcus mentions 150 watts all channel driven. So for even their biggest one, you see right here, it's 2 channel driven. So at 150 watts. So yeah. So
got a super chat in here too.
Yep. So Brandon says, sounds like you'll be able to use Odyssey and Dirac at the same time. I'm not sure. And again, that's kind of like up in the air at this point. I would love, this is just wishful thinking, but typically with some of the higher end Marantz and Denon AVRs and their processors, they have I'm trying to remember what they call it, but there's basically like 2 presets. And so what's nice is you can dial in your settings and everything, and you can set it for, okay, this is my 2 channel setup. And then maybe this is my Dolby Atmos setup, and you can easily switch between those. It would be really awesome. I don't know if they can do this, but it would be really, really cool to be able to run a calibration with Odyssey, save that as preset 1, run a calibration with Dirac Live, save that as preset 2, and then be watching a movie and go, okay, let me hear Dirac. How did it handle the processing in my room? Let me hear Odyssey. How does it compare? That would be super cool. And that makes for some great content, but I'm not sure that we're going to get that. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to just kind of do the back and forth.
Sure. Would be super cool. So is there, I'm looking
here. There's a $10 super chat somewhere.
Okay. Yep. I'm almost there. I'm coming to you, buddy.
Just I'm telling you what to do. I'm bossing you around on your live stream.
Yeah. So good question. Are we getting some for review? As of now, not yet. I've reached out to Like their marketing, they use a marketing company for all the product reviews. And so I've reached out at least to express my interest. So when and where and how soon, we don't know yet. So the biggest addition, this is definitely all the buzz areas is Dirac. A lot of guys have been wanting something other than Odyssey. I mean, we've had Odyssey for a long, long time. And frankly, a lot of guys aren't really satisfied and they're moving away from Denon and Marantz to other brands because they have Dirac. And like brands like, I'm about to say Anthem, they have Arc. Who am I thinking of? Not Anthem.
You think of Dirac, Odyssey? What
what other brands carry Dirac? NAD. I think they
Pioneer?
have
Does Pioneer have it? I don't know.
I think even some of the newer Onkyos now. So again, Marantz is like, and Denon are thinking, hey, we're losing business. If we can add this, maybe we can, maintain some customers or get some customers that have left and bring them back to us. So let's see. All right. Yeah. So another huge thing, 4-sub EQ is huge. So definitely excited about that. Again, for those of you that have more than 2 subwoofers, this could definitely be a great option. And maybe you don't have to get something like a mini DSP, and so that would be something there. Ryan says the channel count on the new A1H can be substantial when you start factoring in cost of amps. That's absolutely correct. Grayson, my man, appreciate the $10 super chat. Always love seeing you and your support. I'm not buying a Denon AVR because I have an HDMI audio extractor that passes audio from my PC to my TV and to my receiver's HDMI audio input. But hey, it's cool if you're doing a live stream. I love it. And I love the fact that even though you've got your setup and you're satisfied, you're still here learning, supporting, just seeing what's happening in the AV community and being a part of that conversation. So brother, I certainly appreciate you. You've also always been just a great encourager and support here on the channel. So Snoot says, I'm sorry, that wasn't Snoot. That was IMZ. He was talking to Snoots. He says, I agree. Direct Live is most likely going to cost $500. So again, we're kind of guessing at this point. We don't really know what they're going to charge. I'm guessing 4. And again, it's total guess. 450, 500, man. I'm just thinking $500 on top of a plus $1,500 AVR. It's like, golly, now we're really adding some change to that.
I mean, to me, it's all like $400 to 450 to 500 isn't really like what I love is how you're like 400 or 450. Yeah, that's fine. 500. What? Like it's that extra $50 that's pushing you over the edge.
Sure.
Right. And that's a lot of people. For me, it's like, well, I'm just going to stick with Odyssey for because I'm not going to spend $1,700 and then 500, on that.
Chris,
it'll be interesting to see what they come out with.
Chris, I have some bars of soap, and after this live stream, I will go wash with soap for my potty mouth. My sorry. Accessories for Less. You can get some deals on there. Sure. Those Accessories for Less is actually here in Florida. So they're a company that offer, I think pretty much all of theirs are manufacturer refurbs. So they get a unit in, they set it right back to factory specs, replace whatever wasn't working, and it has to be certified. And they give you the same warranty as a brand new unit. So definitely a lot of times you can save some change there, save some money.
Green Toe is another one that I've used in the past.
Okay.
So it's, I haven't heard of that. It's Green Toe. Yeah, you can get like TVs.
Who's that marketing guy on that one? Man.
I don't know. They got a tough sell. Green Toe.
We sell Toe Jam with our AVR. You get a free jar of Toe Jam.
No, they work directly with like not manufacturers, but like resellers, and everything comes with like the same warranty you get.
Yeah.
You can even purchase like for TVs, like if you want to purchase an extended warranty, you could do that through Green Toe, and they work with that. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. So Michael says, once you add the price of Dirac, the RZ50, and I believe that's Onkyo, as their model, makes even more sense compared to Denon. So Onkyo has just been out of the scene for a long time, man. I'm really curious to see if they can make a comeback, because you never really hear a lot of guys talking about Onkyo. I know back when I first got into home theater about 15 years ago, Onkyo was like the jam. And the biggest reason is it was kind of like Denon right now, or has been for many years. They're priced right. You get a lot of features for the amount of money that you pay. But I'm just curious, like if they can kind of bring back and really be a force in the home theater space. So Mark says Multi-EQ-X makes it much more comparable to Dirac Live, both frequency and phase much better dialed in. So good to know there. Yeah, I'm just looking at Arcam. Yeah, that was another one. So they use, I'm assuming, Emotiva. Yeah, here we go. So now we're getting to the ones that use Dirac Live. So those have them built in, Pioneer and Onkyo. Super cool, man. Well, definitely, I'm always a fan of technology advancements, but as we can see here, with those technology advancements, typically comes a pretty premium price increase too.
Right.
So you just have to make a decision, is this something that I need? And it's real easy in the home theater space to get caught up with, oh man, that FOMO, I've got to have the latest, greatest. But I honestly have never really been that guy. I have no problem being a two-generation, I don't know if I'd call it like a couple of year behind and save a little bit of cash, let them work out the bugs, save a deal the next time I upgrade. I'm in a position where, we can get reduced pricing when we want to buy equipment. A lot of times when we review a unit. So that definitely helps, but it's one of those things where you just got to decide, are the features that are offered in these new Denon AVRs, is that something I need in my setup?
Right.
And if it does, they've got several options for you. And like I said, there's two more options that we didn't get to cover because the links that they sent were not working. So that's the X570BT and the X580BT as well. But I think those are going to be more budget friendly.
There's actually a question that I want to address.
Yeah, go ahead.
Comments from Michael.
Yeah, do it.
It says, I'm curious to how many people really use 4 subwoofers. That's a lot of bass. So I have like an 11 by 12 room that I've converted into a theater. I have 4 subwoofers in there. And most people, when they hear that, they go, why?
Yeah.
That's a lot. And it was hard to get dialed in because of room modes and things like that. But using a mini DSP, I was able to do it.
Yeah.
The thing for me is headroom. Having 4 subs allows me to get the house curve that I want, which is that 85 dB at 20 to 30 hertz or 15 to whatever, and then it slopes down to 75 dB. I never have to worry about them distorting. I don't have them running hot at all, other than my house curve. They're all running at half volume, if not less.
Yeah.
And I had them. That was the thing. I didn't buy, we didn't buy this house and I said, I want 4 subs in this room. It's like, I had them already. So I'm going to try to get it to work. And it's not about having so much bass that it's like overpowering everything else. I think that's the one thing that a lot of people maybe like get confused, or they just think, oh, well, you just must love bass. It's like, no, I like having an even amount, if that even makes sense. What am I trying to say?
Yeah.
No, I really think that like it evens out the response over multiple seats.
Yeah.
And which I only have 2, so it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But you can definitely feel it, in my room, it goes down to about 14 hertz with all 4. And and someone just mentioned it's about balance bass. And that's, for me, I don't want it overpowering. Now I have different profiles on my mini DSP. If I'm listening to music, I might have a little more, little more volume, because typically 2-channel music, it's kind of lacking in that lower end on certain, on certain things. I listen to a lot of metal, a lot of rock, and stuff like that. So
Leo's got a good point here. He mentions the value of Dirac is inversely proportional. Love that. That's a cool statement. To how terrible your speaker and room response is. If you have a well-treated room and you got pretty flat frequency response, you really might not benefit a ton from Dirac. So that's definitely, something there.
So now that's actually a question that I wanted to ask you, honestly.
Yeah.
So you buy this new receiver and you want Dirac, but you don't have acoustic treatments in your room. Let's say Dirac's $500.
Yeah.
Would you be better off spending 500 or even less, getting acoustic treatments. I spent about $200 making 12 panels total for my room. And then using Odyssey.
1000%. I always would recommend get your room the best that it can. Even Trinov is not designed to, just fix every problem acoustically in your room. You want to get your room as best as it can. You want to get your speakers placed the best you can, your subwoofers placed best you can. So that room correction is just making some minor tweaks. The more it has to EQ, the less overall that great experience you're going to get. And so I would 100%, I would do room treatments. If I were to go back 15 years ago, when I started building my home theater, I wish I would have started there, because I kind of kept adding this and adding that and adding an amplifier and going to separates and all this other stuff. And then I didn't realize like how inaudible and unintelligible sometimes the dialogue was in my room, because that sound was just bouncing around. And I'm having delays, and my brain audibly is trying to process a direct sound and then a reflected sound. And it's going, what did I just hear? It's just hard to hear. And you think it's your speakers. So what do? You buy better speakers. You still got the same issue because you have the same acoustics. So 100%, Brad, I would definitely recommend dumping some money, even if it's DIY, get a friend to help you build them. You can save a lot of money. You don't have to go with something like GIK or ATS, because it definitely can get expensive when you buy pre-made or manufactured, but you can build them and even just some natural stuff by adding, if you got hardwood floors, add a thick rug. That'll absorb some. I even saw some people take a thick rug and then put some almost like foam underneath the rug to add even more absorption. So there's a lot of things you can do to disperse the sound as well as, absorb the sound.
Yeah. This was the first room that I ever, like in my life, had proper, I'll say proper, but they were DIY treatments that I made.
Sure.
Which I will be showing in a future build video. I think it's not this next one that's coming out, but the following. How I made them, and not really a how-to, but like just documenting what I did. And it made a massive difference. And I think most people, they don't realize how, how their room sounds when they put different speakers in there. Because I always have an issue prior to this discerning the difference between speakers most of the time. I mean, some of them have, characteristics that are obviously going to sound, a soft dome tweeter isn't going to sound like a Klipsch, right? Like, or vice versa. But like now it's like a different speaker in my room sounds like a different speaker. I can hear the nuances of that speaker much better because the room is not as involved with it.
I think it was something I was going to say prior to the, so speaking of Brad's channel, definitely, I'd love for you guys to subscribe to him. He does some great content. He's actually been in process. He moved to a new place, so he had to pack up all his home theater, bring it over. And how big is your room now?
11. It's like 11 by 12, basically. 11 by 13, I think.
So Brad is
12 and a half.
Brad is exactly what I have advocated on my channel since I started it. I don't care what kind of room you have, whether it's a living room, a basement. Those of you that got basement, y'all suck, because I don't have that luxury. Those are awesome, and I'm jealous. But whether you got a basement, a garage, you got a bedroom, you got a bonus room, just figure out a way to make it work. I've seen some killer home theater setups in bedrooms as well, and Brad is doing that in his setup. So follow him. You're going to see his process. You're going to see his goof ups. You're going to see the things that he learned from it. And it's going to be super, super practical. So definitely head over to Home Theater Gamer on YouTube and subscribe to his channel. So last couple thoughts before we wrap up here. Mark Gallant, thanks so much for the super chat. Looking forward to your 2 versus 4 subwoofer video with REW. I'm running out of space, man. I know in my room, I know Brad, you can do some of that in your room, but I definitely won't be doing it in mine. I just don't have any more room. Holy cow. There's a ton of chat here. Well, we're up at an hour and 40 minutes. We've kind of covered everything we wanted to cover. Love you guys, man. Super appreciate all the love and support you've given me over the years. Aussie showing some love
I can't
here.
believe you're gonna hit 100,000 soon, man.
Dude, we are so close. We really, really are. So we are doing a Road to 100K giveaway. It's $33,000. I partner with a ton of brands. We've got subwoofers, speakers, we've got amplifiers, all different types of things. So if you're interested in any of that, you need to be subscribed to the channel and then just figure out which ones you want to enter. And there's different ways that you can get extra entries by like following them on YouTube or following them on Instagram or visiting their website. So that's totally up to you what you want to enter. And but I definitely would love for you guys to win some really, really cool gear. And I'm excited to be able to do that. Brad, any other thoughts before we wrap up?
No, this was a lot of fun.
Super cool. So we're going to be hanging out, me and Brad, as well as Ike, at CEDIA coming up just next week. We're basically less than 1 week away. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I've got about 9 videos that I'll be doing, some sponsored videos for brands. Brad's going to be doing some vlogging type of stuff, some behind the scenes stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun. We may be able to throw like some quick live streams. Who knows? It's going to be a blast, but definitely follow the channel. Make sure you subscribe to both Home Theater Gamer as well as this channel here. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. Hope you all have an incredible weekend if I don't see you before then. And as always, you guys be blessed. We'll catch you in the next video.